Hey guys, LevelCap here, and I've been playing a lot of Microsoft Flight Simulator lately, and it's just been blowing my mind for 2 weeks straight. There's so many insanely cool things that you can do in this game. I really wanted to make a video and show you guys, especially if you haven't picked up Flight Sim for yourself or you're just not that into Sims. There's some really crazy stuff that I think every gamer out there should at least see once. Now first up, we gotta start with one of the coolest things that I think you can do right now, and that's flying into Hurricane Lora. Microsoft Flight Sim pulls real-time weather data from Metro Blue, which is a meteorological service that tracks and sells weather data to all sorts of businesses and industries around the world. With this data, Microsoft Flight Sim can show players storms and other weather systems in real time. Of course, it's not totally accurate, and you will notice the lack of, say, aggressive rain or waves around the hurricane, but the end result is still incredibly impressive. Now, what makes this even more impressive is Microsoft Flight Sim's scale. This is a one-to-one recreation of the entire Earth. Hurricane Lora was an absolutely massive storm system that covered basically the entire Gulf of Mexico at its peak strength. And flying the drone camera in-game thousands of feet higher than any plane can actually fly and still not being able to see the far end of the storm really puts things into perspective. It's hard to imagine how big things are without context, but Microsoft Flight Sim gives us the tools to put big storms, skyscrapers, natural land formations, and more into perspective. We can see just how big islands are compared to our plane, how big the hole in the Shanghai World Financial Tower is by flying through it, and we can fly for hours around super massive storms without even scratching the surface of their true size. Now, of course, Microsoft Flight Sim also lets you fly anywhere in the world. And as somebody who's played a lot of Battlefield over the years, I've always wondered what some of the Battlefield map real-world locations might look like. And with Microsoft Flight Sim, I can actually fly there and do my own virtual tour. Now, of course, just like Hurricane Lora, it's not a perfect simulation. The devs can only pack so much detail into literally the entire world. So buildings and terrain can often differ from the real-world counterparts, especially if DICE took creative liberties on their end. But the experience of flying over Wake Island, Iwo Jima, Shanghai, the Gulf of Oman, or the Chateau from Ballroom Blitz is still incredible to see the comparisons. I've spent thousands of hours fighting over virtual battlefields based on these places. Seeing them brought to life in Microsoft Flight Sim gives me a new appreciation for how good DICE are at replicating these real places. Now, another cool thing about Microsoft Flight Sim is that it can allow us to experience things that might only occur once or twice during our entire lifetimes. Solar eclipses can be a really cool spectacle, but they don't really last very long, and it's very easy to miss them or not be in the right place around the world to actually view them properly. In Microsoft Flight Sim though, you can actually wind back the date and time to an eclipse event and experience it for however long you want. Unfortunately, it's one of the aspects of Microsoft Flight Sim that is probably the least accurate. When the eclipse does happen in real time, the effect isn't true to life. The world doesn't darken as it falls into shadow, and the eclipse is visible from anywhere on the planet, not just the path of the eclipse. That said, you can dim the game's brightness to achieve a pretty convincing look with the showcase camera. Also, Microsoft Flight Sim's celestial simulation extends beyond just our sun to include all the constellations visible in the night sky. Under the right conditions, you can even see the Milky Way. Now, certainly giant cities and cool man-made landmarks are fun to look at in the sim, but nothing really beats the raw wonder of nature itself. Flying over Mount Everest, through the Grand Canyon, over volcanoes, and around Rio de Janeiro harbor shows the true power of this game. You can go anywhere and see so much. And while I'm sure it's no replacement for actually seeing these wonders in person, it's one step closer to a simulation so convincing you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference. Now, while all this stuff I'm showing you that's currently in-game is very cool, what's even cooler to me or more exciting is the future of Microsoft Flight Sim. The developers are working on all sorts of improvements to make the weather more accurate, the cities more detailed, and they're adding new aircraft like helicopters. Modders, however, are taking this game to a whole new level with the task of recreating famous buildings, airports, landmarks that are either misrepresented or just missing from the game entirely. But just imagine if modders were able to import terrain data from, say, NASA and maybe simulate the moon or even Mars. Being able to fly over those planets in a extremely accurate simulation would be as close as most people could get to actually traveling to another planet. And given just how realistic the simulation is for simulating Earth itself, since we can actually compare these real-life locations to our personal experiences, I assume that flying over the moon or over Mars could also be done with a high degree of accuracy. Now, rightfully so, Microsoft put the sim experience first in this game, but that does come at the expense of interactive missions or just gameplay itself. Users on the game subreddit already have some amazing suggestions, like fighting wildfires with helicopters or aircraft, flying around SpaceX launches as rockets go up into the atmosphere, helicopter tours of cities, and more. Gamifying a sim experience has already given us so many amazing new games and genres that appeal to the general public. The Battle Royale concept was really born from the one player versus everyone experience that DayZ converted the Milsim Arma into. Some of the best arcade racing games have their legacy in development of hardcore racing sims. Heck, Minecraft is basically built around an interactive Lego simulation. And Microsoft's flight sims are hiring mission design devs, and the game already features some basic tutorial missions, so there's no telling where things could go from here. With a little bit of polish and direction, it seems like the possibilities with this game are limitless. Now, of course, I know that there's a lot of console gamers out there that would absolutely love to get their hands on something like this, and unfortunately the game is PC only at the moment, and even then it's crippling on high-end systems. The good news, however, is that the game's settings scale pretty well with modern PC hardware. Lowering a few settings will get you a pretty playable frame rate, and while 60 or 120 FPS is often the benchmark of good performance, in games like Microsoft Flight Sim, 30 FPS is definitely playable. It also plays pretty well without a fancy joystick or yoke. A lot of the footage in this video was recorded using just a regular Xbox One controller. It's a bit tough to control rudders with triggers, and trimming is still a hit or miss, but it's totally playable even at the higher levels of difficulty. And fortunately, the developers have confirmed that there is an Xbox port in the works, though the details are pretty scarce. Anyway, that wraps it up for this video. Let me know what you guys think of Microsoft Flight Sim. Are you playing it? Do you not play it but still enjoy watching YouTube video content showing off the crazy stuff you can do in this game? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap signing off.